Manhood, brought to you in part by Solomon's Bespoke.
This is Manhood, where we always aim to be better as brothers, and we continue to pursue that desire to be better as brothers and to join as one and to always do better. You know, they always say when you know better, do better. And now this is a podcast style show, and so the topic today is very, very apt. It's about online harm. So to get straight into it, to my right, Johan Sayudike, behavior change consultant. To his right, a man we'll certainly be depending on to give us most of that information, picking his brain, as they say. Shiva Bissessar, managing director, Pinka Consulting, which deals with predominantly information security, but we're really going to be speaking about online harm. And to his right, well, a friend, a stalwart, a man who's been, as we approach almost 100 episodes here on Manhood, a man who's been here many, many a time. Jason Williams, affectionately known as JW, media personality, so many other titles, roles.
I feel almost like 100 there. I've been called a stalwart. But taking it.
Stalwart.
I love it.
Online harm. I mean, there's so much from the time we said, hey, this is the topic here today. There's so much that just came to mind. Yeah. You know, you hear about Roblox, you hear about some child predators. There's all these things happening. The virtual reality dating, all these things that seemingly not even seemingly are negatives. I just feel like today is just going to be a really packed discussion.
I sometimes wonder, and I probably just want to throw it out there to start the conversation, are we not supposed to be like masters of our own destiny, even when it comes to online? Because let's take, for example, comments. Dumas, I'm sure we get pulled into that particular trap and into that black hole where you'll do your work and then you see comments, or you'll put out a presentation, and then, I guess human nature, right? 10 comments, 9 telling you, great job, amazing. That one comment that burn you out, you're taking that to heart. And I sometimes wonder if that example, and we look at the wider online presence, is really sometimes our own self-inflicted frustration and pain by engaging in it on that level, where we end up getting caught and drawn into sometimes banter that really and truly, if we were to be blind to it, we wouldn't even have that particular stress.
Yeah. I mean, cyberbullying, which I think is, many persons don't even realize what they're doing is a form of bullying. But our own, and we had a similar discussion at one point, our need to be liked, our need to have that affirmation. And that's why you could have 200 great comments. Hey, you did a good job, fire, all these different emojis. And then just have that one person who may be giving constructive feedback, but also sitting down, as I sometimes say, I look at them sometimes in their smallness. You know, I say they're sitting down there and they have their own outlook on, it could be envy, it could be just dislike, and they put that comment there, and that's the one that we focus on, which is not always bullying, but a form of dislike to, but that's the thing. When you put yourself out there, be open to it. You can't just expect that everybody's going to like you. You know, there's this saying that if two people always agree, one becomes irrelevant. And so I look at the negative comments or perceived negative comments as learning opportunities and say, okay, well, why is this person thinking this? Why did they put this? And sometimes give it some level of credibility. Good.
I mean, what you said is important. Constructive criticism, we could all relate to that because that is where you grow. Somebody who looks at you through a lens of serious analysis and gives you pointers to improve on the product. But when people go down a road that is sometimes unjust, bitter, remarks that are really, it's not even to do with your work, it's almost a personal attack. And again, I wonder if when we consider, cybersecurity and the whole online world, is it the power? I mean, like, how could we take back that power? How could we find a way to not let it impact us in a way that I see people going to, people who we want to come outside sometimes. You're getting licks online when you go viral, and especially for the wrong reason, and people start to beat you. is a real tough place to be in. Going viral, I went viral once, but not for really anything bad. It was work right here on CNC3 with Trevor Noah when I made the comment with Nicki Minaj and he had it up on his daily show. And that went all over the US. And my phone started to blow up. And that was on a positive tip, where people just reaching out and, oh God, we see the clip and thing. And I started to get frustrated. I mean, not to say flustered, but it was just so much to respond to. It was a lot, just hundreds of messages coming in. So I say, imagine that is when you go viral for something good, right? You make an impact, people happy for you, they're proud of what you would have done. I can only imagine when you drop the ball and, you start to get licks, whether it be in the main media, mainstream, or just, as they say, the media.
Yeah.
We call social media the media now.
And the thing is, anyone could go viral. I remember the police officer who said...
who said on?
No, with Diwali, where she made some greetings.
Yes.
And that is used...
People up to his independence, somebody share something.
Yeah.
So things like that go viral. But so all that, I suppose, as we have this first discussion on here, Shiva, is part of online harm and cyberbullying, how it affects us. All these things are literally online harm. But I know that a lot of what you've lectured on or had discussions on recently is the dangers of things, aspects like that, but also the content that everyone is looking at, specifically persons under 18.
Right. Well, I mean, that instance of the comments and so on, I suppose there's a responsibility now that we are online, that people need to look at their behaviors online. And I think a lot of people are not aware of the impact of some of the messages that they put out there and how it may be perceived. And I think that it all comes down to personal responsibility now. You will not approach someone like that in a physical way. So why do you think it's okay to approach someone like that on an online platform?
Because it's just an IP address, so you feel safe.
Exactly.
You're anonymous.
You're anonymous.
Yeah. But that's part of the problem because, like you say, positive things could feel good, but negative things could feel even worse, So how do you now try to implement responsibility within or behaviors within the population that they recognize certain things you should not do and certain things is all right to do? So the whole issue of cyberbullying, it's real, it's out there, it's affecting not just youths, it's affecting adults as well. And as people, I hear the term keyboard warriors all the time. I think we need to start, because there are consequences to these actions, and there have been judgments or rulings in cases where persons have been held accountable for their actions when they put out some of this negativity online.
They're not very warriors, though. I mean, when we use the word I know we say it because they're there and they're attacking the keyboard almost, but warrior gives you a sort of bravado, a certain sense of courage and positivity to it.
I think coward might be a better word. Keyboard
exactly.
Coward.
Yeah, keyboard coward, exactly. It has a better ring to it. But Shiva, you this topic really comes from you, online harm. What do you understand? And what is the message behind online harm that could sort of really set the tone for our chat?
Well, there are various types of online harms, right? Cyberbullying is one. Other things you mentioned, certain platforms that people go on and they interact with other persons. You may not know who's that other person you're interacting with. That person could be a malicious actor. That person could have ill intent towards victims that they are trying to suss out and figure out, and use social engineering to get them to carry out certain actions, to give up personal information, identity information, photos of themselves, compromising photos of themselves. So people need to be aware that there are a range of platforms out there. There are good actors, there are bad actors, and it's your responsibility really to try to figure out the platforms that, for example, if you're a father and you have kids and they're online, you really need to look at what these kids are looking at online, who their friends are, where these people claim they are from. That may look like if you're hovering over them, but in this day and age, you need to be aware of some of these characters that your kids are interacting with online.
But Jay, Johan, say, don't you get the impression? I mean, I'm probably showing the most white in my bed here now, but that even looking at some of these things, Roblox, it's not like you don't want to be interested, but where you are in life or what you're following, it doesn't engage me. Like, I've never been a gamer, so to speak. So even now looking at these things, I'm not that engaged where I can really look and see all the behind the scenes, these subliminal messages that are sometimes in there, like the characters. So if we're to use Roblox as an example, there's some titles that raise alarm to me. I think there's a one called Cappuccino Girl or something like that. And you always ask yourself, okay, well, why is that? When you look at the dress and so on of them, it's the only reason I start to get a bit concerned. And then you hear the news stories about it. Now, I remember back in our day, Who Framed Roger Rabbit? I don't know if you remember that, and it was very suggestive, the characters, and it always has been somewhere in the cartoons or the characters, or even I'm talking about the kids shows. There's always been some sort of sexual
undertone,
subliminals, even a lot of Disney shows. There's always something in there, and so I'm wondering how do you avoid it? How do you?
Well, I don't know if avoid it is possible, but you see how you say you're not interested in it, right? Do look at it from a place of whether they're interested or not versus a place of, it's like if you're taking a child for the first time to a park or something, you scoping out the place first.
No, just to correct you, I understand what you're saying. I'm not saying I don't want to. I'm saying that the disinterest is also not being able to keep up with that technology and that the way things are advancing, and the skill set, whether it be the twitch muscles and all that, to be able to play certain games, and therefore it's almost frustrating. You look at that and you realize, okay, guess what? You're getting old. That is not for you. That's not Pac-Man or Raiders or even Splinter Cell, any of these games that I would have played. And these things are way more advanced, and children are adapting so much faster to it that in the inability to keep up, it's also frustrating.
Well, the irony is, I remember maybe a year or two ago when parents keep talking about this Roblox, right? And I downloaded the platform and went on it. Roblox actually is not advanced at all, The graphics on Roblox actually is close to Nintendo or Atari, right? And I was like, that doesn't make sense to me because this is new technology. Why is it not advanced? And what I realize is, and I'm saying this to help even understand why children would be even interested in it, is that I remember we played Atari and thing because it lended to our imagination. When you have graphics that's too good, you could admire it, but it doesn't lend to much of your imagination. And imagination is something that it stimulates us, right? So in these games, it's really kind of sometimes even block figures, like looking like Lego.
Right. Like Minecraft as well. Then.
Minecraft.
Right.
Yeah.
Correct. So what it is, and what I realize sometimes actually draws the children in is their ability to create, the ability to tap into that. And when they tap into that, now, of course, when your creativity open, you're susceptible also to being groomed. You're susceptible to being led and guided in whatever direction the platform is, right? And I'm putting it that way because when I started it, it's very easy to understand. It was actually really, really basic, but understanding why, and I'm putting it out there even to the parents, why my child want to play these things, right? And on Roblox is the name of the platform. Roblox is not actually the game. It's a platform with, I don't know, last time they counted, over 100,000 games on it. So he's saying keep track. It's hard to keep track. So it's just ready to find out what games your child playing and let them explain it to you.
So it's not only, sorry Jay, just to say, but just to touch on his point, it's not only to keep track because like he said, Roblox is just the platform, but while they're playing now, it's as you said, it's very simple to understand, but it means I actually have to view, as you mentioned, helicopter parent to see what they're doing to be able to determine where the predatorial aspects may come in.
I think more than view, you have to listen in, because you see, with the headphones and the conversation, so when you're playing now part of our community, and remember, they're having conversations with people they don't know, that's where the adults now could be with a little, try to change their voice or whatever. And now, that I think listening in might actually be a step in the right direction to kind of hear what conversations happening on the platform.
Yeah, I mean, you guys making very interesting points. So let me touch on the point you made. The inability to keep track of all these risks and harms that are out there. That is something that parents face. We give kids the devices. They don't have time. You're not monitoring what they're doing. You don't want to, helicopter over them. But there are risks, and you're not aware of all the risks that are out there. The point you made about the design of these platforms, they are designed to captivate an audience. These platforms know what they are doing. They know what they're trying. They know who the audience is they're trying to attract, and they are trying to capture them. They're trying to capture their attention. But these platforms need to be held to account with respect to privacy and securing the rights of children. The point you made with respect to, listening in or taking off the headphones and just hearing what they're saying, and that could potentially open up to you catching someone, pretending to be someone else. Think about AI and think about how AI could now mask even better some of these predators as they try to mask their image, mask their voice, mask their text that they read from. They have scripted text that they read from. They have a prepared plan as to how to capture, social engineer someone. So these are all very valid points.
Jay, Shiva, Johan say, I'm sitting here telling myself, I could fly a small plane, I could dive, I could rappel off a waterfall. This game will beat me. I will look at that and there's a fear, but the fear is, I don't have fear for those things. I wish my son would be asking me more to probably come and be part of that. But the fear is also one, trying to keep up, because you must keep up somewhat to be able to see what's happening in their world, because we're going to be going into virtual reality and all these things. But also to keep up as maybe, quote unquote, a cool parent, because what is the answer? To say no? Because like everything else, as we know, the more you say no, the more curious they become, the more intrigued. When you're not around, that's when they want to go and do it. And therefore, you could also build animosity towards you by stopping them from doing something, because it's all over the place and all their friends are talking about it. So you can't tell them, don't do it. But at the same time, as you mentioned, not only about getting involved, but a lot of times, Shiva, we use these games and these devices to cyber parent. We're doing other things. We're running around getting dinner. We're as I'm filming,
you need a break.
You need a break. You need a pause. We're filming here. My son's in my office on a device. I mean, I have the YouTube Kids app that I can go back and look at certain things, but it's a scary thought. What then do you do? Because we know why we allow it to happen. Was some advice on that front?
I think a lot of it needs to come down to awareness, and there needs to be programs designed to raise the collective awareness within the population of some of these online harms and risks. Some people are just not aware of how significant these risks are. You don't know who's the other person on the end of that conversation. That could be anyone.
But am I not then depending on, as Jay had mentioned about, you're responsible for yourself, are we not then depending on someone else? Like Roblox recently came out and said they're putting in some measures. I think it's 18 and under 18 or under 17. There's some measures in there. But am I to trust
Well, you see that's and before we go to the break, is that, and I might be playing a little devil's advocate here, is that we can't depend on anybody else. The world, this is my opinion, the world is a jungle. And before there was internet, it was, like we say, a smaller jungle because we couldn't reach internationally. But it doesn't change the fact that the world is a jungle. And in a jungle, it have predators and it have prey. And the fact is, no matter what you do, when a predator wants something, it will go after it. I'll give you an example quick. There's a game called Brookhaven, right? Brookhaven is a RP meaning role playing, where you could create a character. Anything, you could be going to school, anything. So it's not necessarily 18 on under. So let's say a child create an avatar of themselves going to school, going to secondary school. How hard it is for an adult to create an avatar also of a little child and going to school and engaging in whatever kind of conversation. So I'm just saying is that, yes, it would be nice for the programs, the government, the whoever to do programs, but in reality, we can't depend on them.
So with that one, we take a short break. We're talking about online harm. So much to unravel, so much still yet to be discussed and explored. Stay with us.
Welcome back from the break. This is Manhood, and we're talking about online harms. And you guys making some excellent points. Yes, there is personal responsibility that is required in parents educating themselves on some of the risks that are out there. But if we look at other societies and what other nations have done, so for example in Norway, they have run poll and they have seen, they've gotten back results where the population is placing the responsibility on the government to impose, for example, age restrictions on access to social media. Like you said, it's not something you may want to depend on the platform to do. And in that country, they have decided that, we are going to implement a measure of control to limit the age of children that can access social media. Now, that brings up a couple of different areas. What is social media? So, for example, YouTube could be considered social media. But YouTube is also an educational platform. And this is the problem Australia faced when they tried to implement these type of age verification type laws. So it's a nuanced conversation. It's not something simple. There's no easy fix to this. There are responsibilities between the personal responsibility, the government, the regulator, the social media platforms. They all need to, or there needs to be a mechanism to work with all of these various stakeholders to come up with the right solution that fits the population.
So, Shiva, when we were growing up, do you remember Skinner Max? Say, for example, right? Skinner Max. So you kind of knew, you knew what the station, the stations would bring. You know the content. I mean, and this might even be a business venture for Pinka, just to say that even if in the government body where you would be able to say, okay, whether it be regulated by TAT or various things, to say, okay, well, outright that this platform is not for children, right? Whether it be the R, I don't know if they have those same ratings where it's R, G, N, PG, 13, and so on. And then you go even further where there's someone that maybe I could even say, hey, let me reach out to Pinka. My child is watching these 4 things. Can you verify that content for me? And therefore, as I don't want a percentage, maybe a share or something, but just to say, I am sure as a venture, or if there's something like that persons, I know I would say, I don't have time to vet
some type of online rating system.
Where I could say, hey, look, my child is watching these couple of things. I saw the other day he's watching something on Netflix called something Sheldon, and yes, there are moments that you may watch certain things, but there are other times that on a broad basis you're not watching it, and you can come to someone or have an idea. Because if I depend on just say Roblox to come and make that determination, like you said, there are 100 plus things residing on Roblox that they might not deem, just like we're seeing in Disney now, that they might not deem not appropriate, that I might, as a parent, what what is good for the goose. Well, no, that's not even the right saying in this case. I don't know why I was going to say that. But one parent.
Everybody had different standards. So
Thank you.
What a parent will want. And you see, I think that is a fair idea. Now, again, I'm playing devil's advocate here, is that I don't think we could regulate human behavior, right? Because everything is full circle, right? If you regulate internet, then people go start to draw it, right? And then you'll get back to when the outlaw the magazines, it had no punch and thing anymore, right? You find another way to do it now.
Punches? You're really showing the age here, bro.
Yeah, I remember punch.
And I'm saying it because this is again my opinion. When we try to regulate human behavior, people always find a way versus allowing people the opportunity to express it. I want to say express. Let me give you an example. Most times when we create something, we want people to see it. True or false? Most time when you create something, we want to talk about it. In working with parents, when the parents allow the child to talk about the game, that and you think, well, sometimes parents, I don't want to hear about the game or I might not understand what's going on. But I challenge some to just listen. Some even think, well, my son or my daughter wouldn't want to come and talk to me, but they want to because they create something from whether it was Minecraft to in Roblox to wherever it is. They create something. They want to talk about it. That's why we have all these YouTube videos with children watching other children do the thing that they want to do. So I using that way because if we're going historically, when we suppress ourselves, when we're not allowed to express, we find ways to do it. And then when we what creates a predator, I've noticed a lot of times, is the yearning for something you don't have, right? So if I'm hungry, right, I want food, so I'll find anything I could to get food. If I'm starved for attention, I will find the way to do it. If I starve for sex, and I could go along, emotional, so forth and so on. So what you starve for, you become a predator for, and therefore if you give the opportunity of expression, right? And again, I throw it out, that could always be framed differently, but if you give the opportunity for expression, especially to children, you will hear and understand what it is going on.
We were talking about, as you said, people find many ways, and I mean, porn is a huge thing, and especially as you start to get into puberty and people start to explore and express themselves. And what's this thing that you look at a lot? Hentai, is it?
Good that you mentioned that, because even with porn, right? I remember in our abnormal psychology class when we were discussing deviancy and sexual deviancy. And we weren't defining what exactly is deviant, because deviant means straying from the norm. But everybody might not have sex the same way. Everybody will think about sex and attraction the same way. So what is really deviant? Now, I'm putting that out there because what created fetishes and what created deviance is suppression. The opportunity to not do what we want. And then when we also researched, and even in working with porn addiction and sex addiction, why do people watch porn? And doing this survey, it wasn't necessarily to get off or to get a high, it was, I have the opportunity to customize and choose what I want. Because in the life I have, I am suppressed. So even though I have a girlfriend, I have a husband, I have whatever I have, it might be exactly what I want. But with porn, I could customize this thing here. I want to see this thing. So it was more a matter of getting what you felt that you were missing versus the act itself. And I could apply that to any addiction, to gambling, to drinking, to so forth and so on. So I'm saying it that way because understanding that could help alleviate and understand what happens online or what manifests online that could be harmful.
I always thought people watch porn to rough up the suspect.
Sometimes too, I'm not saying only, right? But why?
Okay, I understand. But
the why?
For research purposes, we've ventured down that road. But Shiva, you've been on many panels having this specific discussion on online harm. What are some of the biggest responses or eye-opening moments, apart from being on this show here today, that
Yes.
that you have experienced?
So, well, just recently I was in a CTU conference in Cuba where we discussed, or I was the moderator of a panel where we discussed with experts how can the Caribbean start to cope with online harms. There was a recent announcement by CARICOM that they are starting to look at possible laws to address online harms. And online harms, it doesn't only affect the youth, it also disproportionately affects the elderly. So think like romance scams, for example. So there are a range of types of harms that we need to cope with, or we need to try to...
What are the main ones?
Well, cyberbullying is one, for example. You have things like financial sextortion. Financial sextortion is something where you could be talking to someone, you're thinking that person is someone else, and that person is trying to get like a compromising photo of you. And then when they get that photo, they just flip the switch and they start to intimidate you. They start to use that photo as leverage now to blackmail you, to pay them. And the payment aspect is coming through things like gift cards.
Yeah.
You would think that gift cards, digital gift cards, is innocuous, is something that you buy for your kids to go and play on these platforms. But that is a mechanism for exchange. So one of the points I'd like to get across is that this is not just a telecommunications issue. This is not just an ICT issue. This is also a financial services issue as well. Because the exit point for these online scams is the payment networks, are these gift cards, are normal transactions. And there are ways, or there's research being put out to the obligated entities now, how they can fine-tune their systems to look for payments to predators or payments to payments from victims. Going back to your point about, online rating system, I mean, that's a good idea. And we came up here in like less than 15 minutes, you come up with an idea like that. So the more we talk about these things, the more we try to innovate and get entrepreneurs involved in developing some platforms, some measures to counter the online harms. You talked about the over-regulation or the possibility of over-regulation. And that's where we need to have the wider, broader discussion now with the population and find out what it is that will suit Trinidad and Tobago. So we are aware that CARICOM is going to come with a potential model law. What is right for us here? We need to start that conversation now.
Is there, in your experience, do you see that, is there a pattern, so is it from, for example, Europe, the US, regionally, that in TNT, there's something specific that maybe content that we ourselves, our children gravitate to more than, that you can sort of narrow it down to a particular type of content that you've seen our children or adults having a particular preference for.
And this is part of the problem. We don't have proper research into these things. Who's going to fund this research, for example? If people don't recognize this is a problem that we need to treat with, funding mechanisms are out the window. You don't get funding to... I personally have tried to get funding to attend certain conferences, and, it's difficult. Mm-hmm. So when we talk about something like research now into what are the particular harms that may be prevalent within our society that we need to really cater to, I don't know where to start with that, So it opens up a point that, we need to start looking at this issue and looking at it holistically. What is affecting us? How do we research it properly? And how do we come up with the facts and figures that this is what is taking place in Trinidad and Tobago right now?
Miracles.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would imagine data. I mean, when we consider online, again, it blew my mind that people still getting caught with sending pictures, like you call it sextortion, you call it?
Financial sextortion.
Wow.
Yeah. Why blow in your mind?
Because I just find it what somebody could say to me for me to send them to me, you could Google up, send a Google, send a Google, you don't send yours? Why sending yours for?
But sometimes you do. Sometimes you do.
You so hot, where sending yours for?
No, but
if you never see it, you don't know that it's not mine.
No,
man. Is what?
Don't do that.
Everything, all of us have desires. right? That's normal human, everything. Even the desire to wake up, the desire to go down the road, the desire to go to, all of us have desires. And when our desires are unmet, it becomes a little more, call it has inflation. So it gets more and more. So when you go online, because online is a tool, whether it is YouTube, no matter what you go to, you have a desire. So you decide the desire when you go there, right? So now, if you're in a chat room, right, and a chat room looking for love, that means your desire is for love, right? And depending on how intense your desire is, the other person who now may be a predator would be able to detect your desire for love.
Tap in.
So if you may not have the desire for it, but somebody else may. And then it's also a generational thing.
They
right?
work out your algorithm.
Sometimes, depending on the older you are, sometimes sending pictures online, that is not something that me, I didn't grow up with that.
Yeah.
But sending pictures online is what the younger generation grew up with. That's a normal thing. That's a common thing. So the way I might be cringe, like, nah, boy, send a picture, you mad or what? But somebody else maybe, that's what we normally do.
Also from position of, it could be where they are in life as well. If you're in a position of low self-esteem and someone is coming with the right things, chain up your head.
Exactly.
And you met with the desire to want to please, they have this thing, people pleaser. You're going to do it. And where you are, I have a friend and her neighbor. She was sharing with me. As persons get older, sometimes they become more religious, or they have more time to focus on that said religion, and the extortioners started off with as a pretense as a pastor. So came to them with all the right things. They studied these things, so they knew all the right things to say, months back and forth, the right quotes, prayer, all of these different things. And then all of a sudden had to say to her, listen, I want to come and visit to pray with you. Send me some money. But the money was sent in, as you mentioned, Apple gift cards. Because what they'll do, they get the code, they go to the Apple store, buy the product, and then sell the product. So that's how they get the currency. And did that after a while. And of course, she would go, Apple store then triggered to the daughter, this, they feel this is a scam because the scam is coming from Africa. And so she went, and of course they tried later on to stop some of the gift cards. Apple, the store here was very helpful, but it was a form. And then the person on the other end, to bring the story full circle, became very aggressive, then threatening, and then starting to say, I'm going to contact X, Y, and Z in your country because you can Google, the news, figure out certain names, etc. I'm going to send this person for you. I know where you live now. I'm going to do these different things. Because she would have shared a lot of information under the religious guys and the trust at that point, and had to go through the efforts now of no social media, no cell phones, going back to TSTT as in landline. That's the only way the children can contact her.
I sometimes wonder if people are able to express more, because again, you spoke about the person doing extensive research, saying the right things, having that algorithm. Are we as humans able to express more via the written word as opposed to the spoken word? Because sometimes the spoken word face-to-face might be a bit difficult, especially in a relationship context.
So Jay, WhatsApp, think about how we communicate
Yeah.
now. Most people don't, the phone rings, you're like, what are you calling me for? Boy,
Yeah.
send me a WhatsApp or a voice note.
But it's across all modes. It's across all modes. Like you said, chain up your head. The correct term or the scientific term, social engineering. That's what they do. They use all methods of communication to social engineer the reactions they want out of the victim.
So they know what to say.
They know what to say.
When to
There's
say
a
it.
script. These guys have scripts that they perform. And AI is just going to make it worse, where they refine these scripts now. Some of these scripts may have spelling errors. So someone who's versed in this could read the messages afterwards and realize, okay, this pattern that they're trying to execute here, we know which territory it comes from. It comes from Asia. It comes from West Africa. So we need to be aware of the classification of some of these things as well. It's not just individuals that are victim to these things. So think about recently we had news of a major financial institution being defrauded and the cause of the fraud was
Email to the CEO.
email and WhatsApp.
I saw that, yeah.
So email and WhatsApp are being used as something called business email compromise. And they use techniques to get you to bypass your typical verification and authorization workflows and send money. And then you have things like ransomware. We have victims of ransomware in Trinidad and Tobago. Again, there's some method of convincing or social engineering the victim to get them to carry out an action, like give up a piece of their information, give up or click on a particular link. So it's not just individuals, it happens at all strata in society.
This was a big segment. I mean, we heard. I mean, the terminologies now: sextortion, social engineering. Your insight as to the why. Definitely, we need a moment. So we take a short break. We're coming back talking about online harm.
Welcome back to Manhood, a very important conversation about the ins and outs of the social media and just the technological world we live in and some of the, I would say, challenges and more so now the consequences, because we dealt with, obviously, the algorithm, the fact that people have texts they use to lure people in, sextortion, they called it.
Yeah,
Right.
sextortion.
It's a big learning curve for me because, I mean, I don't live my life online. I try to be in the moment, but I've also recognized that, yes, you have to engage and be on top of what's happening, also being a father. You know, we spoke about that in the first segment, but I want us, if we could touch on some of the consequences, because if this goes really downhill for someone, they go viral or they are compromised in some way, what's the worst case scenario?
Well, things could get as bad as suicide. So earlier this year, I know of a particular case where a teen victim, suicide was the end result. And this person was being financially sextorted. Part of the problem thereafter now is how do you report this type of incident to the police? You know, how do you follow up with the police to make sure that they are on top of the investigation, devices are handed over, and then there's no follow-up. So a lot of people have problems. We see it recently with deepfakes with local celebrities. People have talked to some celebrities where they don't know where to go. They don't know who to talk to. They don't know where to escalate this matter to.
Even the voice now. You don't even, it's not just the body image, the whole look. And it's so easy on certain apps where it's being pushed as fun.
Yeah.
You were like, look, I have Morgan Freeman. I could get Morgan Freeman to do these things. I mean, we've seen it now with gorillas and all these other things. But when and where does it stop? At this point, you know, you spoke even just now about teenage suicide. And I want you to continue along that trend of thought, but to say that it's not just about the what's it called, the financial sextortion. It can also be whether it can be through cyberbullying,
correct,
or it can also be where you just through looking at these things, not feeling that you're good enough.
Yeah. And
as a result of feeling less than, you also may take a life that you can't really investigate at this point. It's just what the content is out there. It's really about that awareness game.
Part of the problem is we don't know, like we said earlier, we don't have the data, we don't have the facts and figures. Are there classifications for these type of incidents when they take place? When these incidents take place, is there a cyber dimension recorded somewhere that this particular incident was related to a cyber incident? So we don't have the facts and figures. Are all these incidents being reported? So, for example, things may be taking place in schools and it may be suppressed. We don't know if we have all the facts and figures. What we hear of is what is in the media, but does the media get everything?
How do we push for that, Shiva? Because growing up, you had either tape or videotape or VHS or a magazine, and then for example, for porn, you had to go through all of these. Sometimes it was so frustrating. We didn't watch porn. Mm-hmm. And now you simply type in anything or Google, so and so, or AI, and boom, the world is your oyster. You get to see everything. So it's so prevalent, it's so out there, like with the video games, it's being created to be easier, simpler, more intoxicating, more engaging. inviting, and it still feels that we're still going, this is coming, or AI is coming, or we're going into the digital age, as opposed to we're fully immersed into it, and yet we're still thinking, it feels as if we're still thinking analog.
Who's the we? When you say we are thinking analog, who you
No,
referring to?
we meaning, as Shiva just mentioned, I'm not talking about a specific government. I'm talking about nationwide, regional, globally, because, for example, with Roblox, Roblox themselves, because of outrage, has addressed it, because that's going to affect their bottom line clearly. But in terms of laws, regulations, and not just laws and regulations, but enforcement of those, to whether it be in schools, parents, the like you said, parts of the law enforcement division, where these things are very, very carefully scrutinized, looked at, and discussed on many a platform. I don't see, and I could be wrong, I hope I'm wrong, I don't see that level of engagement to combat this scourge that's happening. It's entertaining, but it's now very, very scary as to what's on the undertone of this.
Because the people who, let me say, you or people would want to address it, right? Does he use these platforms? And when I say use the platforms, is that I think, and again, I say not playing devil's advocate, that most people want freedom of expression. And that's why we're creating all these things. We're creating these things because we want the freedom to do whatever it is we want to do. Everybody have a different vision. So from creating AI to creating deepfake, I remember when deepfake came out, how amazing it was, but also dangerous, to now having actual robots doing things. This is the mind of man, to me, that we always looking for the thing that we desire, the thing that we want. We're looking. So if the same people in the government, they use from YouTube to wherever it is, they may not want the restrictions on themselves. They may understand what the populace may want, and they can see the quote-unquote dangers. But that's why even things like all these social media platforms, that's why they have disclaimers. If you're under a certain age, you can't use it. They have no way to prove that. They have no way, well, right now, to necessarily enforce it. But if you break down one thing, the mind of man will create something else. And I'm not saying it in a way to be hopeless, but in helping understand. And why I say that is because when you allow people to express themselves, and I'm going back to this because I've seen this work. When you allow children, we're going children first because in terms of harm, when you allow children to express themselves in whatever way, you get to understand what they're going through more, so you can relate to it in what way. And then you also diffuse some of the energy that is inside of them that may cause them to do it, right? Remember, even it had high five. I don't know if you all remember that. That was old social media. Then high five wasn't fulfilling what some people want, so then they create Facebook. And Facebook was created because a college student want a network for college students. I remember when I was in the States, when I now started school, when Facebook first came out, it was only for universities. That was the vision of someone else. Then the vision of somebody else made it differently. So are going more and more. Once man, and that's the blessing and the curse, I think, of man, is that wherever we want and we desire, we will create. If it is suppressed. But if you are allowed to talk about it, you are allowed to express yourself, then you wouldn't get the deviant behavior. It's like, when you make something illegal, everybody run for it. But once it's legal, well, me really won't die anymore.
But as Shiva, as someone who, as a parent, and as, of course, that being part of your role at Pinka, and someone who goes around the region speaking about this topic, online harm. What are some of the things, because it can't just be all doom and gloom. I mean, bottom line is social media, and these platforms also bring joy. There's a lot of good content out there. How do you stay as a parent? How do you and Johansi had a good point about getting involved and having that understand, having those conversations. But that's also sometimes easier said than done, especially when you talk about dealing with a teenager who also has the attention of their peers more than you. what are some of the things that as a sort of a North Star that someone can go towards and hold, and something to hold on to start that process of having some level of influence in a positive way, that your child, who you are supposed to be grooming, doesn't go down that rabbit hole?
Yeah, I mean, but that personal responsibility to become aware of what the risks are, to me, that's what it comes down to. And how does one develop that responsibility if they themselves are not aware of the risks that are out there? So this is where, they need that extra push, maybe from an awareness campaign, to help to influence behaviors. So, for example, rollout of a program of interventions at secondary school level or even primary school level, where you address parents, teachers, guardians, school kids, and school kids of different ages. You have to group them differently. So something like that can go a long way towards raising the awareness level within a nation, so that the kids become aware, the parents become aware, the educators become aware of some of the risks that are out there, and then at the home, they start to practice better behaviors or more responsible behaviors with respect to social media. Like I say, it's good and bad, but how do we suss out what is the bad and figure out, and you could only do that if you're aware of what are the ills out there.
And online rating. So, that's what's going to fund a lot of your travels, to push this message and to lobby for more recognition of the need for this right now. We're almost near a close, but Jay, you mentioned something just now that shocked me, because part of the role of a celebrity, a media personality, is, whether like it, lump it or not, you have to be out there. Yeah. And part of that, a huge part of that, is social media. How do you, and many don't know and don't give Jay, I mean, I know when he was Jason Williams, now JW, the respect of one of the pioneers, if not, I mean, I can't think of someone before him that I would recall in this whole content creator thing that we now have. And kudos, to the Kyle Bosses, the Certified Samsons, the Junior Lees, all doing really, really great stuff and amazing stuff. But Jay started, I would say started this thing off. I mean, I remember Synergy with Boujou and Sizzler and all these other things like that. I mean, if you go back to those things, and so how do you, what I'm trying to say, apart from you being a pioneer in this world that we live in now, how do you now not be, because you didn't pack up. You didn't say, okay, I in retirement. How do you remove yourself from that environment?
I think, I'll always be creative. The creative mind will always be buzzing. But I think for me now, getting into a much more mature phase of my career, I think any content being created now is to try to inform, to educate. I'm very much involved in the news sector now, looking at all the current affairs. And I think because of that, I'm trying to format to get commentary done, but I want to do it in a real responsible way. And I just think that, I'm so in the moment of life right now in terms of, engagements with corporate entities, engagements with, first and foremost, my son and my family. I just, I think less is more. For me, I enjoy looking at other people's content. I think it was good at the time, that youthful exuberance to bring all that stuff back then. I still have it. I think the fire is still there. But I more enjoy content now. I'm very guarded and very particular as to what I put out. And I try to not live 24/7 in this space.
Do you think that it affects you in any way? Not people not knowing. Okay, well, look, Jay is drinking a cup of coffee. Look, Jay is right. These moments, because as we mentioned, we had that discussion. Yeah. Instagram was instant picture. Yeah. It was to show celebrities. People had this real appetite to know every step of the way what they were doing. And do you think it affects you in any way? Not putting yourself out there? I
don't think so. I think less is more. And as I get older, I come to realize that when people see you, when you're not in the face all the time, there is an appreciation for when they actually see you. And when you make a statement, they actually listen, because it's like, hey, this man come out of the woods, boy, what you have to say? And to me, I honestly feel less is more. That's how I'm going about it right
So
now.
quality versus quantity.
Yeah, definitely. Because posting is important. I mean, content is important, but I do believe I need to be out there every single day. And then, I mean, I enjoy what I do in terms of the morning show. So I get enough time within those 2 hours to express myself. I think overexposure, I've seen where in media sometimes if you're in folks' face, whether it be social media, mainstream media, if you're in people's face too much, there could be a kind of like,
Pull back.
So yeah, I very strategic.
Which is a big difference now to some of the content creators who, there's a difference between followers and engagement.
Yeah.
Because you can have 2 million followers, but your engagement might be 1,000, which there's not a good the correlation there, and they have to sometimes do 2-3 videos because the moment you don't have something up, it's like, well, on to the next.
And added to that, I see within my own experience, there's a major difference between an influencer and a person of influence. I'm the latter.
Well, Jay, I think this topic is a good one for you to start doing some influencing on.
Yeah, for sure. There's a major distinction. And I've come to see firsthand with some of my corporate engagements, like real deliverables and metrics that you've seen uptick in people either signing up or engaging in a company based on I think people take my word as a serious word, and because my word is always a genuine word, I really endorse or put my brand of face behind something I really believe in. And that's how I've operated from day one. And I guess, again, less is more. I can't be supporting 1,000,001 things, but the things I do support, I support it full-heartedly. I think that works for me, and I think that's a good advice for people who looking to engage in social media space. Be authentic. Don't take the chain up, because I still can't believe people still. I guess, as you rightfully said, young people, I guess. And I also know someone who was dealing with that, as a parent. And it is a concern for anyone who, unfortunately, gets caught up in that web of exposing themselves. I guess, yes, I have to be a little more mindful and understand that you really sometimes could, via the words and the suave, and it said, if this thing's scripted, I mean, these people coming in scientific. Is that high science these men doing? Wow. Well, it blew my mind. I learned a lot today. I didn't even realize it that sophisticated, to be quite honest.
So just to touch on before we close and wrap up with our own thoughts about online harm and what we've learned here today. You mentioned about just Google it and send a Google or
Yeah.
My thing is, we are coming again from a position of what affected us, what influenced us, what was the taboo in our day, and how we still bring those experiences and those feelings and those emotions from our parents, their parents, our upbringing, to now where those things aren't taboo. So someone showing their body or someone having a high body count. I mean, those are terminologies and things that don't even exist.
Funny enough, you said that to see a girl in a bad suit, you would have seen that probably, let's say on Punch, you mentioned Punch. Now that's a regular Instagram picture.
Yeah.
But
it's pose and thing.
But it's how you do the style now, the underboob, the side boob, the all of these different things. It's how do you reveal more and more and more. And I think it's pushing the boundary to as maybe a rebellious form or whatever the case may be, and because you talk about things that are being over sexualized, and then you have women who come and say, why are they being looked at in this particular way, and then other persons are like, hey, what's the big deal? So
you mentioned something about taboo, and I think it's important that we break certain taboos. The age that we live in now, we need to recognize that these things may happen and may happen to persons that we love. And the important thing that you need to communicate to persons that you love is, if you become a victim of some of these things, don't be intimidated. There's nothing that has happened that is too bad that you should now take drastic action. Come to the authorities, come to your parents, come to your teachers, come to your friends, talk to someone about it, and try to figure it out. Nothing you have done in sending a compromising photo is the end of the world. So break that taboo, that how, it's already out there, it's gone. come to someone you love. That's it.
So I mean, I don't know if you want to continue with on as you have the floor. What you took from this? I mean, someone who has lectured and spoken about this so many times. Do you feel that you're even more energized? And have you learned anything?
I'll tell you something. So in information security, you talk about these online scams and financial crimes all the time. I never expected that how I would be faced with the situation with someone I knew. A suicide took place as a result of one of these scams. And just that experience, I remember going home 2 o'clock in the morning after, being with the family and so on. I messaged all my groups, chats, and all my friends. I said, look, talk to your kids. Let them know about these online harms. Let them know that they could come to you if something happens. Please just talk to your kids. And people probably watch that message in the morning and say, what is man talking about? But that was my personal experience. I never expected it to happen to me, to go through, knowing I know so much about these things that someone that I know would be affected by it. But it really hit me hard. And that since earlier this year to now, I've been taking every opportunity to bring awareness on this topic. And I think this conversation is important. I hope this goes out to the population of Trinidad and Tobago. And we start looking for furthering the conversation, finding solutions, innovative solutions like you mentioned, but involving everyone, involving the kids as well. As you know, the agency of kids is an important issue. You have to involve the kids in this topic as well. You can't impose age restrictions without involving kids. So you need to have all the stakeholders at the table to come up with solutions.
Okay.
I mean, it's been a great learning curve. I didn't realize it was so sophisticated. I just thought that sometimes people, I know we live in a very hypersexual society, and by extension the region, it's the way we express ourselves, how we dance with the music and all that. So I just thought was sometimes people being a bit naughty, a bit, in that vein, but clearly it's a greater, more sinister stuff happening. And I guess it's for us to be aware, to be on top of it, and as you rightfully said, to know that if at all you compromise or you drop the ball in any regard, life goes on, this too shall pass, and there's no need to take drastic action. And we hope that there can be more support groups and more deeper conversations within your family and by extension the wider community to hold on to those who might feel like they're out in the cold based on cyberbullying or any mishap via the social media or the technological space, because they're going to change it. This media world going to be here forever. It's here.
Mm-hmm. Knowledge is power. Mm-hmm. The more we know, is the more power we have to manage it. And as I was saying before, I believe life is a jungle we live in. You can't really tell the lion, don't really come and eat if you presenting yourself as prey. And I put it that way because I think it's everybody's responsibility. Yes, we can have measures in place. Yes, we could have age restrictions, etc. But as human nature, we want to explore. As a child growing up, a child wants to understand themselves and find out more. And sometimes we can't really manage or restrict human behavior, but allow, and this is one to parents, allow your child to even talk to you about the game, right? Talk to you about, so you could hear, not necessarily about the game, but to hear their desire and motivation for why they want to play the game. So therefore now you're able to channel it probably in a different direction. And then everybody in the wider community, anytime you suppress something, it becomes a desire, sometimes become ravenous and turn you into a predator. So right now, we can't necessarily stop and restrict everything, but at least be knowledgeable about it so that you or your loved ones or people in your sphere would be more equipped to be able to handle it.
A lot of thought in this one today, as you said, Jay, the terms that we heard today, social engineering being a big one. Mm-hmm. This topic today, online harm, this show online will help, hopefully, and not harm. It's important that we spread the message. We're not coming into an age of digital. We're not coming to an age of social media. We are in it. We are thick. We are knee deep and rising in it. Remember, data is eternal. The data is always going to be there. Even when you delete, that data is there. So you'd see it all the time with emails where the advice is always remove yourself. If you're sending something, if you want to send something in anger or any form of emotion, remove yourself and come back again. And you may find that you don't want to send that specific email anymore. And I advise the same for things that we send in group chats, things that we WhatsApp, communications that we have, because it lives on. And that decision you make today is something that you're going to have to deliberate on later on in life. So online harm, this would be, guys, one episode that you probably have to put on repeat, some of the information that's there. But the key takeaway is communication. And our children are always watching. They're always watching. So even though they may be watching something on YouTube or watching what their peers do, they're also watching what you do. And you are their champion. You are their guardian. You are and can. And if you're not now, you can certainly become their hero. So online harm, Johanse, Shiva, Jay.
Stalwart. Taking
Stalwart.
that. I run with that, Robs. I run with that.
This is manhood.
Manhood, brought to you in part by Solomon's Bespoke.